I'm sure that about 90% of you watching are all thinking the same thing. Smooth, how the fuck do you rank Boomerang coasters? And hey, I get it. We're talking about coasters that all have the exact same layout. You get pulled backwards up a lift, then get dropped back down before blitzing it through a Cobra roll in a loop, followed by another lift where you then traverse the whole layout again in reverse. At this point, everybody and their mothers have either been on or even seen one of these coasters. It almost feels as if everybody lives within a 10-mile radius of one. This is one of the most cloned coaster models, with 55 of these types of coasters currently in existence. 38% of these models literally being called or containing the word Boomerang in their names. So why am I making a video ranking a coaster that is virtually identical in every park it appears in? Well, I am one that loves seeing the creative things parks can do with a basic design like a Boomerang coaster. Whether it be uniquely theming it, or changing up the style of the trains, or building it in places you wouldn't think possible. I'm here today to celebrate the parks that take a simple concept and go the extra mile with it. My name is Smooth, and these are the top 10 most creative Boomerang coasters in the world. Now, before we get into the list, we gotta lay down a couple ground rules. I am only considering traditional Boomerang coasters for this list, so no super boomerangs, no inverted boomerangs, regular or giant, no moonsault scramble, and no family boomerangs. Only Boomerang coasters with the 2 lifts, the Cobra roll, and the loop where you ride and sit down trains will be considered. This also means that any manufacturer is eligible for making this list so long as what they created follows the traditional Boomerang layout. Also, the coaster must still be in operation today, so that means no Boomerangs that are standing but not operating, no Boomerangs that have since been relocated, and no Boomerangs that are no longer with us. I'm not ranking these coasters based on smoothness, reliability, or operations. I'm looking at these coasters purely from a creative standpoint. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the list. Our first stop on this world tour takes us to the border of North and South Carolina, where we find the only theme park to sit within 2 states, Carowinds. This mega park, owned and operated by Cedar Fair, is home to some incredible coasters, including the Hang Time Machine Copperhead Strike, an incredible B&M invert called Afterburn, and the 2023 Golden Ticket Award winner for Best Steel Coaster, Fury 325. Yes, the coaster whose support cracked this past summer is somehow the best steel coaster on Earth, cause screw Velocicoaster, and Iron Gwazi, and Steel Vengeance. I'm getting off track here, aren't I? Anyways, we're here to talk about their Vekoma Boomerang, and the first Boomerang on this list, the Flying Cobras. This coaster opened in 2009 as the Carolina Cobra after operating as Headspin at Geauga Lake before Cedar Fair bought the park and immediately axed it just to purge all of its rides out. This coaster's opening in Carowinds marks the first ever appearance of Vekoma's Mark 1212 trains, featuring a wider body and new vest restraints for added comfort. These trains would later be added to many of Vekoma's coasters, extending the shelf life of every coaster it has been added to. But these trains are not what got this coaster onto the list. Instead, it's what the park did with the coaster after its opening that earned the coaster its spot here. In 2017, Carowinds announced an expansion to their county fair area, including the addition of a couple flat rides and the retheming of Carolina Cobra to what we know it as now, the Flying Cobras. This coaster is now themed to a stunt plane show, with this awesome Circus-esque sign at the entrance, tents laid out around the queue that continue that county fair aesthetic, and these cool checker patterns on the ride's supports. It makes the coaster feel way less generic compared to when it was Carolina Cobra. But where the theming goes over the edge is in its trains. Now each car is painted a different color to represent different planes performing in the air show. And along the front dash of each car, dials and gauges are painted in, really selling that stunt plane aesthetic. I'm a big fan of what Carowinds did here. giving a generic coaster a fun, quirky edge that helps it to stand out within a pretty packed lineup. But if the sky isn't high enough for you, how about a Boomerang that takes you to space? Our next stop takes us to a country rarely ever talked about by coaster enthusiasts. This being my home country, the Philippines. And for those of you who are wondering, no, I'm not Spanish, I'm Filipino. Stop asking me if I can speak fucking Spanish! Within the mountains of Laguna, we find a lovely little theme park called Enchanted Kingdom. This is the Philippines' equivalent to Disneyland, with highly themed lands and attractions. And at the back of the park, we find the marquee attraction to this park, and the next coaster on this list, Space Shuttle. Just like with the last entry, this coaster makes the list for its awesome theming. I personally love the massive rocket ship built in front of the coaster, and the cool tunnel you walk through on your way to the load platform. Although I wish the theming continued in the load platform itself, I'm happy they at least themed the queue. Now, I got to ride this coaster as a kid when they were still running the older Vekoma trains, and no, I did not find the coaster very pleasant with those old school restraints. But I am happy to see that the coaster was recently fitted with the new Mark 1212 trains. Even though for a while they had a fat off Pepsi logo on the front of the train, which is disgusting! And on the topic of that, I found in researching for this video that this coaster had some weird ass soda war over sponsorship for the ride. When the new trains were added, the coaster was renamed to Space Shuttle Max, with Pepsi decals all over the spaceship and tunnel. When the name was reverted back to Space Shuttle, the Pepsi theming was removed and replaced with Coca-Cola theming. I'm gonna be honest, this is some Six Flags shit right here. But either way, it's still one of the best themed boomerangs out there. And if the whole idea here is that astronauts drink soda in outer space, why not instead they get hydrated by today's sponsor, Prime Energy? We now find ourselves at Power Park in Kauhava, Finland, for the next entry on this list, Cobra. This boomerang is very unique in that it runs these very weird open-sided trains. This train is known as the Mark 1211, and it made its debut on this coaster. Now, information on this train is very hard to come by, but from what I could gather, the only other coaster that runs these types of trains is Gravity Max, a tilt coaster located at Discovery World in Taiwan. I also found an article claiming that Shaman, then known as Magic Mountain at Gardaland in Italy, allegedly ran these trains, but I have found no photo evidence of this. And no, I did not forget about Python at Efteling. Despite looking very similar to the Mark 1211 trains, Python actually ran trains designed by Kumbak, the company responsible for these thigh-crushing contraptions over here. From what I've read about these trains, the open-air feeling riding in them is a big positive, but that positive is heavily outweighed by the negative that is the restraints used on them, giving the same amount of head-banging numbness you'd get on the OG Vekoma trains. No wonder Vekoma was quick to roll out the Mark 1212s right after these were launched. And if it's true that these are uncomfortable trains, then you bet you're gonna feel all their might on a Vekoma Boomerang. Now, outside of the bizarre trains, this coaster has an incredibly designed station, built with this cool western aesthetic that gives a lot of life to the coaster. Coupled with the coaster being surrounded by other buildings, and you got a coaster that gives great visuals throughout. Other than that, there really isn't much to say about this coaster. Honestly, I only put this coaster on here to talk about those trains. Moving on! Time for another boomerang with weird-looking trains. Our next stop takes us to Vienna, Austria, the place that gave us Mozart, Vienna sausages, and the WWE Intercontinental Champion, the Ring General Gunther.
Trust me when I say this. Come next week.
Oh my goodness!
Within this fine city is a park called Wiener Prater, one of the quirkiest theme parks in the whole world. I mean, they got 3 spinning coasters, 2 of them indoors, and one of them comically named Insider. as well as this weird janky looking kids coaster from the 40s, and a classic scenic railway style coaster called Hochschaban? Wait, hold on.
Hochschaubahn.
And speaking of quirkiness, look at these ride descriptions on their website and tell me these aren't the funniest ride descriptions you've ever seen. And by the way, this is the English version of the website. I'm not using Google Translate here. Apollo 12, Fly Spacing, Black Mamba, Frolicking. Yeah, that looks like a ride that definitely frolics, right? Blue Planet, Jurassic. What the fuck does that even mean? Haunted Castle, Afraid Castling, Hippodrome, Upsaddling. Bro, someone needs to go to Austria and explain to them that that is not a fucking hippo. Kids Highway, Wheel Kidding, Spectaculo, Spectaculating. That's my new favorite word right there. Super Autodrome, Traffic Circling, Turbo Booster, Peppered? Who's ever used peppered to describe a ride? Vienna Roller Coaster, Gnome Watching, Volair the Flying Coaster, Volatiling. We're talking about a Zamperla Volair here. Yeah, that's a pretty volatiling ride. Windobana, how do you pronounce that? Windobana Skydiving, Submerging. What the fuck? Bro, you're either in the air or you underwater. You can't be doing both. And finally, we got my personal favorite, Roller Coaster Restaurant Vienna, Event Gastronomy. What the fuck does that even mean? I'm getting off topic again. What were we talking about? Oh, right, boomerangs. This park has a super unique boomerang that's uniquely titled Boomerang. What a volatiling name, am I right? So this coaster features very unique trains that use lap bars rather than the over-the-shoulder restraints you're used to seeing, as well as F1 style decals for some bizarre reason. Now, this isn't the only boomerang to use lap bars, as these style trains also appear on Generator at Wallaby Rhone Alps, and the two recoil coasters at Wonderland Bangalore and Wonderland Hyderabad in India. So why does this coaster make it onto the list and not the other three I just mentioned? Well, honestly, it all came down to this awesome tunnel that's slapped on the bottom of the Cobra roll. I love how it starts midway up the Cobra roll, giving riders an awesome head chopper mid-inversion, something you don't see every day on a coaster. Also, unlike the last coaster, this one rides way more comfortably with the lack of hard rubber for people to bang their heads on, giving riders a real spectaculating ride. Oh god, I should stop using that word. A coaster as bizarre as this could only exist in a place like Wiener Prater. And at a park with two near-century-old coasters, I'm sure this one will be around for years to come. Up next, we go to the roller coaster capital of the world, Uzbekistan. I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all. I know precisely zero things about Uzbekistan, other than the next coaster on this list, Bamarang. Wow, what a name. Located at a park called Tashkent Land. And to be honest, if it weren't for this video, I wouldn't have even known of this coaster's existence. But that's the magic of smooth travels. We all get to learn new things together. So, it's incredible how such an unknown place to us Americans could be home to such a cool boomerang. This one being built primarily over water, and the parts not built over water are surrounded by trees. On top of that, the coaster features these cool camo headrests. Not sure what the significance of that is, but hey, it looks cool. This is definitely one of the coolest locations I've ever seen a boomerang be built in. And it's surprising that no other theme park has ever thought of doing this with their Boomerang coaster. The closest I could find to this is Boomerang at Darien Lake, but unfortunately that coaster squirted before it could reach the climax. They should have listened to Gunta.
Come next week.
But if you thought a boomerang over water was insane, wait till you see what I got in store next. Up next, we got the most mysterious coaster on this list. This is Cliff Coaster in Boquan Paradise in Zhou, China. This coaster was built on the side of a cliff, offering terrifying views from the top. Now, this coaster is mysterious in the fact that I could only find this one video of the coaster, filmed by Masane Miya PA. Outside of that, there is no photos of it and a minuscule amount of information about it online. Looking at it on RCDB, you can see there's no photos and they don't even mention who the manufacturer of the coaster is. Now, going off the train design and the fact that it uses a catch car on the second lift has me to believe that this was manufactured by Beijing Shibolai Amusement Equipment, a Chinese manufacturer known for knocking off some of our favorite coasters, such as the Zamperla Volaire and the Mauer Skyloop. And as you'll see later in this video, they really do like to push the limits of what can be done with a boomerang coaster, including this cliff coaster here. I can only imagine how terrifying it must be getting hoisted up so high in the air. Hopefully someone in the community can go out and document this coaster so we can really understand what this is all about. But until then, we got Masane to thank for getting us the only recorded evidence of this super unique boomerang. From a boomerang we know nothing about, we now go to a boomerang that everybody knows about.
What do you get when you guzzle down sweets?
Type 2 adult onset diabetes.
Alright, we are finally back in the United States for this next entry. This is Jolly Rancher Remix at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania. Now, I might have placed this coaster a lot higher than it should be, but I can't get enough of the candy theming they threw onto this coaster. This coaster first opened in 1991 as Sidewinder, having a somewhat Western theme to it. This lasted till 2022, when the park decided to retheme the coaster to Jolly Ranchers, repainting the track to a vibrant lime green and painting the supports pink and blue. As well, they added some incredible Jolly Rancher shaped lights in the station and an awesome tunnel at the bottom of the Cobra roll that sprays candy scents at you as you blast through it. Throw a Zamperla Nebulas in front of it, and you got a fun visual masterpiece fitting of a candy-themed theme park. I'm surprised it took Hershey Park this long to start adding candy theming to their roller coasters, especially considering the Hershey Company's large catalog of treats that they could theme their rides after. I only hope this continues into the future with more fun, quirky rethemes like this. To me, this is one of the most memorable boomerang coasters out there, one of the most visually pleasing, and an easy candidate as one of the most creative boomerang coasters out there. The only thing that would have made this coaster better is if at the end a screen appeared in front of you and on it all they played is this.
I'm Wilfred Brimley and I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about diabetes. Actually about diabetes and diabetes.
Up next, we got a double entry. This is Boomerang Challenge Coaster at Trans Studio Bali and Boomerang Hyper Coaster at Trans Studio Cibubur. Now, at first I thought Trans Studio was a movie company, but from what I could gather, they seem to be a company in Indonesia that builds big shopping malls and entertainment complexes. And at two of their locations, they decided to take the boomerang concept to the top level, literally. As you can see, both of these coasters are built on the roof of their respective malls, towering above guest heads as they approach. Although the dizzying heights achieved by this coaster may not be as intimidating as something like Cliff Coaster, it is still incredible to be hoisted so high up in the air on a coaster like this. I'm a sucker for coasters that are surrounded by skyscrapers and other large buildings, So of course I'm a massive fan of these coasters. I'm sure some of you watching might have actually been on one of these, as Boomerang Hypercoaster actually used to be the former Boomerang at Knott's Berry Farm. Lovely to see that coaster find a much better home in Indonesia. From up in the sky, we go back down to earth for the runner-up entry on this list. We now find ourselves in the Netherlands, home to the Stroopwafel and the 3-time Formula 1 world champion Max Verstappen.
And what do you want me to do?
When I do this, you start talking. Hola todos.
Hello, everyone.
As well, you'll find an awesome theme park called Wallaby Holland, home to an incredible RMC hybrid called Untamed, a banger mega coaster in Goliath, an outdoor rock and roller coaster clone known as Express Platform 13, and what is regarded as the best boomerang in the world, Speed of Sound. This coaster first opened as La Via Volta in 2000 and ran until 2007, where it then stood dormant for 4 years. In 2011, the park revitalized the coaster, renaming it to Speed of Sound, adding onboard audio, a light show in the station, and an amazing looking tunnel on the first lift. I love what the park did with this coaster, especially with the music. The Netherlands is known for their love of hard-hitting electronic dance music, and that shines through on this, giving this coaster so much energy. Paired with the Mark 1212 trains, this coaster to me is the total package of comfort and excitement. It's no wonder this is considered the best boomerang coaster on the planet. So why is this coaster only placed at number 2 on this list, if it's the best in its class? Well, remember, this list is ranking boomerang coasters based purely on their creativity, and surprisingly, there is one other boomerang on this planet that I think is more creative than this coaster. So we've talked about boomerangs built on cliffs, over water, and on top of buildings, as well as boomerangs with incredible theming. But what happens when you combine a boomerang coaster with both an incredible location and incredible theming? You get the final coaster on this list, Shark Attack. This coaster is located at Hot Go Sea in Fushun, China, an indoor amusement park with water slides and rides galore. And within this building, you'll find this awesomely themed and constructed boomerang. Now, you might remember earlier in the video, I mentioned there was another company that makes boomerangs and has a tendency to put them in really cool spots. And this coaster is specifically what I was referring to. I love how the lifts rise into this glass tower, dropping riders into a labyrinth of ride track and guest pathways, offering both insane head chopper moments for riders and insane visuals for guests watching below. As well, you have all this ocean theming around the coaster that beats out some of the coasters you'll find at a park like SeaWorld. The only thing that brings this coaster down a peg, besides these disgusting restraints, is the super long pause the coaster does before proceeding up the second lift, a problem which is also present on Cliff Coaster. Overall, this might not be as smooth or quick as the other boomerangs on this list, but the amazing level of theming and its incredible location makes this, in my opinion, the most creative boomerang coaster in the world. At the end of the day, boomerangs are one of the most important coasters in the history of the theme park industry, modernizing the shuttle coaster and leaving its mark in all corners of the world. And though this model is now outdated, it's great to see parks updating these coasters to thrill newer generations of guests. Whether it be by adding newer, sleeker trains, or giving them cool creative theming. Though this model is on its way out the door, it has opened the door to more modern shuttle coasters such as the Premier Skyrocket 2, the Vekoma Family Boomerang, and the Vekoma Super Boomerang. And as annoying as it is to see these coasters all the time, show them some love, because you never know when your local boomerang will be biting the dust. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and enable notifications. A like on this video will help ensure that more fun content like this can be created. And if you have any funny stories about your experiences on Boomerang coasters, tell me about it in the comments section below. I love reading what you all have to say. My name is Smooth, and until next time, I wish you all nothing but smooth travels. Take it easy, y'all.
Bye!
Yeah.
Holy shit! Whoa! Fuck me! Fuck me!